everybody. This is Jen Kleinhens.
And I'm Rob Vose.
And you're listening to another episode of Everybody Hates Your Brand, a podcast where we talk about our thoughts and opinions on marketing, from customer experience to brand and everything in between. Join us today as we talk marketing technology with a very special guest. So you might notice that in this interview, we are only featuring one of our co-hosts.
Yes.
Not me. That is Rob, who is interviewing our very special guest. Now, we wanted to give a little bit of context on why that is. It is not because Rob does not like me anymore and has Yoko Ono'd me out of this podcast.
Very true.
It is because we had some technical difficulties with our microphones. So the consummate professional, Rob, jumped in and conducted the interview all by himself. And he did a great job, so...
Absolutely, and just to give you an idea who we're talking to, she introduced herself in the podcast, but it's a lady called Lucy Acheson, who is Customer Experience Director for Merkle Australia, and somebody who's worked with marketing technology for longer than she would care to admit. So, when we started thinking about the list of people we wanted to invite to come and be on the show, this person who we're about to interview is very high on the list. Two reasons. One, she's fabulous. But secondly, she is an expert in something that has seen an area of marketing that's seen a dramatic change certainly since I started marketing in 1999. And that's marketing technology and the technology that underpins what we're able and capable of doing from a marketing perspective. So to introduce that person, it's Lucy Acheson. She is Customer Experience Director at Merkle Australia. Lucy, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rob. How are you going?
I am all right, thank you. Thank you for joining us from the other side of the world. Time differences are a pain in the arse, but I appreciate you making the time to talk to us. What we'd love to do, and we try and do with any guest, is kind of get them to give us a quick précis of who they are and a bit about their background, sort of establish a bit of credibility. So would you mind just kind of taking us a little bit back who you are and your background in this kind of area?
Yes, no problem at all. So hi, everybody. Lucy Acheson here, dialing in from what is wine time in Sydney. It's 8:25.
It's officially wine time.
It's wine time.
Nice.
I've my career. Geez. So I started as a psychology major back at university, and then I came out of university and I couldn't get a job. And my mother got me in the grand metropolis of Basingstoke, which Rob and I know as Amazingstoke.
Amazingstoke, yeah. Or Basingrad.
Basingrad.
Sort of Soviet version of the same thing.
So got me a job as a media planner, and then I decided I'd run away from home, and I went and lived in Edinburgh, and I got a job as a data planner, and that's really where my career started. Working with data in a scientific capacity within a marketing agency, essentially. And I was very, very lucky to fall out of love with the man who took me to Edinburgh. And I got a job at the amazing bastion of direct response or CRM agency that was Evans Hunt Scott, or EHS at the time. So the guys who developed the Tesco Club card, yes, alongside the Dun and the Humvee. And I've worked ever since in marketing and advertising agencies, nestled within the data and analytics department, analysing data to my heart's content to try to effect change for clients, to drive value, essentially. So yeah. I am a female data nerd of 24 years. I worked out the other day, which is quite terrifying.
It's scary when you start doing the maths, isn't it?
Let's not do it. Let's just pretend that we're 24.
If someone could tell my aching body that I was 24, that would be fantastic.
Stop playing golf.
It's not golf, it's the Peloton. I'm telling you. It's those things, I swear to God, they use I know all the gamification tricks that Peloton is pulling on me, like the leaderboards and the beat your best time and the badges and all that. I know it all, and I know how it all works, and yet I can't stop myself being seduced by it. It's pathetic.
You're an addict.
But anyway, I am. Yeah. So and then our story kind of intertwines in sort of, I would say, sort of October, November, December of 2013, yes. And we were both looking at a job in Australia, and.
Crazy.
yeah, and then the company DDB decided to sort of hire us both, and we both sort of decided to jump across across the other side of the world, and you're still there.
I am, my love. I am. I remember meeting you in a pub in
Ah,
Soho,
yes, me too.
as you say, in the December,
Mm.
with the lady who hooked us out and took us to Australia. And I remember thinking, we come to the pub, and he's driving his motorcycle, and
Most I never. Oh,
and
just
you
because of the
weren't
jacket.
drinking.
No, no. For the record, I don't have a motorcycle. I just have a biker jacket. But
Oh, I
I
thought
don't
you
have a
were. Oh,
bike.
I got
No, no.
that wrong.
My mother swore that she would excommunicate me from the family
Which is
if I
fair
ever
play,
got a
and I'll do the
motorbike.
same to both of my sons. So, well,
Yeah.
fair play, your mum.
And it reminds me of a story. I remember Stephen Fry was talking to one of his a doctor somewhere, and he was saying, "He said we need a." Well, he just basically described motorbike riders as donors, was what he kind of said. It's raining soon. There'll be a donor in a minute. So, so
Lord.
yeah, not really my cup of tea. And I think
No.
one of the things we then worked together on a few different things, around things like Gumtree. Hello, Paul
Yes.
Smith, if you're listening. Um, and working on sort of understanding different data platforms and technologies and how they can all fit together.
Yes.
And where are you currently? So we know you're in Merkle, Australia, but a bit more about that.
Merkle Australia. So very excitingly, um, although I have loved every single second of working within creative and marketing agencies for my career, I've made the leap, and I moved to this amazing Salesforce Marketing Cloud agency called Amicus Digital just over
Hmm.
a year ago. And see, I sounded Australian. I said year ago. Um,
Everything's ending in an inflection at the end of a sentence.
Yeah. Abacus, a huge success story in Australia in terms of Salesforce implementation. They were bought by
Hmm.
Merkle, year and a half ago now. Um, and I've nestled myself very gently into the bosom of Amicus and now Merkle Australia, essentially recognizing with the guys that implementing a technology is all well and good, and the guys are bloody good at doing it.
Hmm.
But really, what we need now to do is to help clients utilize the technology that they've
Hmm.
procured. Um, and that's an endemic issue, certainly in Australia.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like in the UK anymore, but in Australia, everybody has drunk the Kool-Aid. They've
Hmm.
purchased Martech with abandon, certainly in the last 6 or 7 years that I've been in Australia. And pretty much, apart from the enormous megaliths like
Yeah.
the Telstras and goodness knows who's of this
The
world,
banks, I
who,
guess.
and the banks, absolutely, who are obviously amazing. Um,
Mm.
Most clients, if they put their hand on their heart, probably need a little bit of help to realize the asset and to make their CX dreams come true, essentially. And that's where we step in.
Interesting. It's interesting what you say about that, because I've been on that somebody. I think in marketing we have this issue that we describe ourselves as sort of magpies. Like, we like the shiny new
Yeah.
stuff,
Mm,
and I think with a lot of those tech platforms, it's very easy to be seduced by what it can do.
yeah.
Would you say that a lot of the reasons people end up with tech that then maybe are, the old phrase is, got a Ferrari in the garage, but you don't get it out of first gear.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a function of they bought a piece of kit without really thinking what they're going to do with it? Or, is that a fair sort of thing to say? Or they've just been seduced by fancy tech, do you think? What's the kind of reason that people aren't getting the most out of the investment they've made?
It's a great. It's something that keeps me up at night, to be honest. It's sort of the Darth Vader or dark side
Hmm.
pull in terms of
I like that.
quite,
Been seduced.
yeah, absolutely seduced by the dark side. No, no, I'm
Hmm.
joking. I think genuinely that marketers understand marketing. And
Hmm.
I think that IT teams understand IT. And I think that digital natives are obviously digital natives. And
Hmm.
the triumvirate between marketing, digital, and IT work in their in silos. And we,
Mm.
I talk about endemic siloitis. I'm not even sure if siloitis is a real word, but I just made it
I'm
up. So
very sure it isn't, but in which case you
it
should
is now.
trademark it because it's amazing.
It goes into pretty much every deck that I write. So I hope it's I hope it's something. But seriously, IT do their thing. They are procuring technology left, right, and centre, given a whiff of what's desirable from marketing or from the business, or to your point, they've just drunk the Kool-Aid as to what we should have within the business. And then so often, which is really lucky for me because it means I've got a job. The IT and the digital and the marketing worlds work in those silos, create not a Ferrari, I'd call it a wee monster,
Yeah.
and spend a lot of money creating said monster, and
Mm.
then say, there you go. You said that you needed to do A, B, and C. That here's the solution. And the marketers go, but I didn't want lasagna, I wanted spaghetti bolognese. And they'd
Yeah.
say, well, sorry, it's pasta and meat, so just eat it.
Suck it up. Yeah.
Suck it up. And that is why we're so busy, which is amazing. It's trying to help people to, if you talk about Ferraris, get the Ferrari out of the garage. Well, work out what color the Ferrari is, how to get into the car, and then
What all the
try to
buttons do.
put the key into the ignition. And it
Yeah,
sounds trite, but it is so, so true.
it is. And I think it's, I remember I was talking to somebody the other day about CRM and platforms and tools. And I said, do you have your sort of strategy written out? Like, do you know why you need this piece of kit and what you think it's going to bring to the table? And have you mapped out your customer journeys? Would you say that really, I mean, it should be strategy, need first rather than, ooh, kit, and I'll figure it out later. And I think that's, to me, that's where I think the mismatch comes, is like you talked about, I've got these. Do you think people nail their requirements before they go and talk to people, and then they end up with something they didn't want because they haven't nailed their strategy first?
Thank you for
Is that
leading the witness. Absolutely not. No,
interesting?
no. I think somebody listens to a podcast like this one and
Hmm.
they say, oh, I need a customer data platform, or I
Right.
need to have an orchestration layer, or I need to have an analytics layer, or I need to have, Power BI and dashboards and Tableau coming out of my
Yeah.
backside, and then go to IT and say, I need data visualization, or I
Hmm.
need to understand cross-device stitching, and I need to, and then toddle off and have a long lunch and and then come back and hey presto, as I say, they have lasagna as opposed to spag bog, and
Hmm.
they have something that they fundamentally don't need,
Hmm.
um, and unfortunately for clients they have wasted a great deal of money in creating
Yeah.
the thing that they fundamentally don't need. And you know what, it's not always about spending the most amount of money, Rob.
Mm.
It's spending smart money. So I
Yeah.
have clients here who are just saying, who are actually turning their backs on the big four in terms of technology,
Mm.
and saying, I don't need that for my business. Every time I send an email, the cash registers ring. So why do I need, genuinely, and this is a really difficult conundrum
Oh,
for me as a
absolutely. Yeah.
strategist. They're saying, Luce, every time I send an email out, I get loads of money. So why do I need to have a strategy? This is particularly
Mm.
in retail. And I'm kind of like, okay, let's discuss
Mm.
that. Let's unpack it. Let's try. Let's turn it all off. I'm sure. I'm sure once upon a time, Telstra turned off all marketing just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I sometimes feel that it's a similar discussion with clients. Say, okay, if you don't believe that it's working, turn it off. But as soon as you stop personalizing comms to people, I fundamentally believe they'll arc up.
Yeah, I think what will happen is, I don't know. It's an interesting question. If you believe, it depends how. It also depends how strong your brand is before you turn it off.
Absolutely. Mm.
If and if there was an interesting one. There's an article I read about how badly, um, it was about SEO, so a slightly different situation, but it was talking about the pay-per-click stuff, and they were buying brand terms for a well-known brand. So you're buying the brand name essentially as a pay-per-click thing, and they were saying, well, look how many click-throughs we're getting and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you turn it off, because the top one is your SEO term is at the top anyway, because you're searching for the brand name. So why, and nothing, and the sales ended up the same. And I think there's a whole issue with experimentation. People don't know how to set up experiments, how to set up control groups, how to really prove, and that's one of the things when we had Mark Razzle on a few weeks ago, we were talking about experimentation, how you set that up properly. And I think, people, I remember having a conversation with somebody at an old company. We made X amount of money off this email. So how'd you figure that out? Well, direct click through and how much they bought. And I'm like, how'd you know they wouldn't have done that anyway? And that's an interesting, sort of an interesting question about how you set up those experiments and make sure this tech is actually producing incremental value for you.
Absolutely, it's the delta. It has to be a comparison against as you say, sort of native or organic behavior. I was at a meeting today, and someone was talking about building a propensity model and analyzing all the behaviors using Google, going back from buying a car all the way back to initial interest, essentially.
Right.
And I said, oh, that's jolly clever. Well done. That's an insight. That's an insight. That's an insight. But how about the people who didn't buy a car? Did they have exactly the same behaviors as the people who you said did buy a car? And they went, oh yeah, good point. So I agree. We have to, and luckily having done a science degree, setting up experiments and setting up test and learn is probably 60% of the effort, in my opinion.
I totally agree, and being able to replicate those results, because there's a lot of, if you can get a positive result, significant result, and then run it again, it doesn't happen again. I think there's a level of rigor that sometimes isn't there. So we talked about we talked briefly about sort of telecoms and banks in terms of technology implementation, making the most out of it. Are those the sort of brands that you see squeezing the most out of their tech, and how are they doing that? Is it just massive investment in people? Is it who's doing this stuff well from your perspective? Apart from your clients, obviously.
Oh, clearly, love. Thank you. No, actually, it's a fascinating question. It's a brilliant question. Of course, people with lots of money have a lot of resource in terms of the ability to crunch data faster and smarter than anybody else, and a million bodies to throw at it. But I thought you might ask me this question, so I've done some soul searching today, thinking about the brands that I fundamentally think are doing a really good job, and the people who I think are doing a really good job are those, exactly as we just, as a perfect segue, those people who actually understand how to test and how to learn. And it can be the far more diminutive brands who are willing to say, okay, what we're doing today is not fit for purpose. Help me to create a roadmap for change. And it might be that we only learn one thing this month or this quarter, but please help me plan out the roadmap to change, and are willing to have fundamental change right the way through the organization. So it's all very well saying we have XYZ as a brand and our brand purpose is amazing and our customer value proposition is X, Y, and Z. But unless it's endemic, unless it goes all the way through the organization, right the way through to the lady, bless her, who picks up the phone in the call center to answer complaints and god awful rants from customers, unless the CX weaves all the way through the organization, or at least attempts to or tries to, I think those people are the people who will, in time, see the greatest gains. It's all very well to shout from a brand perspective with a television ad, but you have to take that brand ethos and promise and trust right the way through the CX ecosystem. So I don't think it's necessarily the people with the biggest budgets or the most complex technology ecosystems. I think it's the people with the bravest purpose, essentially, and commitment to change.
Like the cult. Well, they found a cure for sialoitis.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
You could bottle it and
you're
sell
welcome.
it.
You can have that. Yeah.
Thank
Um,
you.
no, I appreciate how much thought you put into that answer. I think it's amazing how much the culture is what drives success of these things.
Oh, for sure.
Whether it's the implementation of data and insight and analytics, whether it's implementing new technology, customer experience, whatever it is,
Mm.
just that it's such a truism that the people and the culture are
Yes.
everything. And so you can
Yes.
buy, as we talked about, you can buy the best kit in the world and hire the best analysts in the world. But if you're not prepared to listen to them and or do something different and or talk to each other and collaborate. And
Yeah.
it's funny, I remember, I've worked for some big companies, but telecoms and banks and things like that. And what I find is that it's almost microcosms of that. There are some silos who are really good within their silo and they're making the most out of their kit. And you move to the next silo and they haven't. So in a weird way, you can kind of see it almost like little mini companies within the same company. And you just
Mm.
think, well, if you could if you could all think
Talk
like
to each
that,
other.
it would be amazing. Um,
Yeah.
so technology is, I mean, back in '99, when I started at Vodafone, I had the old Nokia 5110 and text messaging was barely a thing. And email was like real text-based type stuff. You think how far tech has come in the last sort of 21 years, whatever it is, 22 years.
Mm.
And now a lot of stuff that gets talked around is things like AI and machine learning and
Mm.
all these sort of things. And I also then read contrary things about that, where AI is overrated or it's being applied to things that it's unnecessary for.
Mm.
Are you kind of getting clients asking you about it, trying to utilize it? Who is using it? Is that something that's kind of on your radar and on your clients' radar?
Oh yes. Every second conversation talks about the need for a propensity model for this, that,
Yeah.
or the other, and I can't say this, an analytics layer,
And no, no,
analytics
no, no, no,
layer.
no. This is what happens when it's 1 o'clock, Lucy.
I know, I know. Um, but absolutely. And there's much buzz around the strategic water cooler in terms of the power and predictability of the AI tools. I think there was a certain level of skepticism at first, and people said, "Oh, the computer's great, but really, you need a human to
Hmm.
tell it what to do," and that's obviously true.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not a water cooler Kool-Aid drinker
Mm.
entirely. I fundamentally believe that you need to put the man slash woman into the
Hmm.
machine. Having worked with AI at various financial service organizations in the last 6 years, just because you can talk to someone doesn't mean to say you should. Um,
Yes.
the old adage of, you remember Target back in 2012, who targeted the young lady who was pregnant and
Yeah. Oh, yes.
her
The
parents didn't know she
classic.
was pregnant and she was underage, rada rada. I mean, that absolutely, I believe, will
Mm.
still happen with AI unless we tell the machine not to do A, B, and C. So it is absolutely an attractive proposition. It's enormously exciting, but I do sound like a bit of a Debbie Downer, but I believe that there are swim lanes. So I'm living in
Hmm.
Australia, so everything has to tie back to a swimming pool. But there are swim lanes in the Olympic swimming pool, right? And you've got
Hmm.
in lane one, you've got some basic life cycle comms that still need to
Hmm.
happen. We still need to
Yeah.
welcome and onboard and talk to
Hmm.
people and remind people about a brand. And
Hmm.
then there's calendar of it's Christmas, in
Hmm.
terms of
Yeah.
comms. And then then we start to get a little bit sexy in terms of trigger
Hmm.
based stuff that says if someone does this, if this, then that. So
Hmm.
basic Boolean logic in
Hmm.
terms of lead management and recognizing hot, tepid, and warm leads.
Hmm.
And then you get onto the really sexy stuff, which again, I fundamentally believe that no one I think there's a great deal of effort that needs to be put in place to manage the really sexy stuff in terms of predicting behavior
Hmm.
before it's even manifested
Yeah.
itself. Um, and
Mm.
look, I would lie to you if I said that every client is interested in it. A predominance
Hmm.
will have a water cooler conversation with you about it. I think a lot of clients are actually very pragmatic as well, and realize that their tech and data and IT infrastructure is a little bit of a plate of spaghetti, and they probably need to do quite a bit of housekeeping before they throw hook, line, and sinker and the billions of dollars of marketing budget behind AI. I think most people would probably like to get an email campaign out and see a positive investment.
Yeah, with a name on it properly. Yeah,
Yes.
and I wonder
Yes.
how much of I would agree. I think the basics. A lot of people who are doing those basics well before it's like walk before you can run, isn't it? I
Yes.
guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a fascinating area, and you kind of read things about people building and you teach something teach an AI thing through machine learning, it ends up having biases of humans, and there's the question I've got in terms of like been doing a bit of digging around in terms of recommendation engines recently and understanding, if you've got a raft of, I don't know, let's say I'm a video game retailer, he says, having worked for one, and it's
Mhm.
a sale, and I've got 100 products I could put in front of a particular customer.
Yeah.
How do I figure out the right one to put in front of them? And that's one challenge. And the other challenge is, okay, well, let's say I have a system that does that, a black box that does that. What I want to be able to do in my communication is say why I'm
Why?
telling you
Yeah.
about this. So it's
Mm.
easy if you've playing, if it's Gears of War 5 and you bought Gears of War 4, you can easily say to somebody, hey, we see you bought Gears of War 4 and blah, blah, blah. But if it's come out of a black box, I think there's an
Can't.
interesting question then about transparency within that. I think that's what the collaborative filtering stuff that Amazon do well, is because you can at least kind of go, well, people like you, you know,
Mhm.
also like this kind of stuff. I think that's an interesting challenge from an AI perspective, that kind
I
of
agree.
transparency at the back end.
And I'm
Um,
working. Oh, sorry.
sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
No, after you.
No, I was going to say, working with a client recently, we're analysing their it's a QSR brand.
Hmm.
Remember the quick service restaurant
Oh, I
group?
do. Yes.
QSR. Um, and and she said, Lewis, do I really want to do one to one? Don't I want to do one to few? And I thought about it in terms of the effort, to your
Mm,
point, the effort in terms of building collateral and building journeys and building the rules of engagement and therefore substantiating to the business. Because this is why I get tie myself up in knots. We used to be
mm,
able to say campaign X will deliver it at the 1st of July and we'll email 100,000 people and we
mm.
predict that the return on investment will be A, B, and
Yep.
C. Whereas now with the AI computational
Mm,
power of the decision engine, I as a marketer can't actually say unless you've got I was going to say a shed load of
y-
data. I can't really predict to the business exactly who will receive
mm.
what and what the return will be. And I working with a bunch of brands here in Australia. That for me is the golden Willy Wonka
Yeah.
ticket. How can
Yeah.
I prove something that hasn't happened yet, directed entirely randomly by a computer? And that is still the genuinely that's the flip in terms of people
Mm.
who have planned advertising and marketing based on past behavior. Um, it's a tough leap. It's a tough leap for most teams.
Yeah. I mean, I remember back in the good old days, it was, the days of direct mail, and, which I still think has a place in certain mixes, and I think is a little bit forgotten these days. But I remember, I've got a certain amount of money. That means I've got a certain amount of postage and a certain amount of print, and I know my, you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
it was quite easy
mosaic.
to calculate, but it also meant you better get a bloody return on investment because it was expensive. And I
Yes,
think it almost made this. Listen to me, I sound like an old man shouting at the clouds, but it almost made, I think, when things became cheaper in terms of like cost per send, in terms of email and SMS and those kind of channels, it almost there's a little bit of that discipline that was lost. Maybe, like, if you're not so worried about per campaign cost, I'm sending out an invoice to a printer,
yes.
you end up just not worrying about the targeting maybe as much. Might be a bit unfair, but that's kind of how it feels a little bit to me. There's a bit of
Well,
rigor.
until folks start to unsubscribe, and then you
Yeah,
end up with a database of three people,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
you know, quite seriously, and until
Mm,
um, clicks are so low that you know damn well that even people haven't unsubscribed, they're not engaging with your content because they haven't opened an email or clicked on it for many months.
Indeed.
So I do think that people are getting smarter, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. And just then, in sort of final sort of section in terms of the sort of trends of the next few years. Obviously, AI, machine learning, I assume, will continue to grow and improve and and what have you. Do you see any kind of and again, I realise I'm talking to somebody whose other half is a barrister here, and you mentioned leading the witness earlier, so I shall try not to do that again. But the idea that do you see any pushback against the technology companies, i.e., by people who've been burned potentially, quote unquote? They bought a piece of kit, it was very expensive, it didn't deliver what they wanted to. Or are we always, as an industry, kind of ever optimistic about what new technology will bring, and we'll just keep investing in it?
Fascinating question. Gosh, that's a real sort of divide me down the
Yeah.
middle of that one in terms of half of the brands I think yes, they'll continue to consume, and they're like barracudas, or they like the shiny thing, or whatever you said earlier, in terms of us just being diverted by the new. And obviously, some of the massive conglomerates that run the tech world have a lot of money to spend in terms of product development, and are brilliant salespeople. Let's not forget that. But I have seen one or two really big brands in Australia this year turn away from the big four and just say, as I was discussing with you earlier in terms of retail, just saying, no, I don't need it. I'm sorry, I'm going back to something that's way more workmanlike and hardworking, and all I really need to do is press send and then I make money. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, and what I'd love to do is, as you said, is a controlled test, a scientific test, to look back at those brands in 10 years' time after the next decade and go, oh, are they still trading, or have they done a Kodak and disappeared and reborn again? Not slagging off Kodak.
No.
But I think, gosh, I don't know. Some of the tech companies are so big. How can you push back on them? But I do think that the technology market is now exceptionally crowded. Someone said to me day before yesterday, that there was something like 8,000 pieces of MarTech now available in terms of application. 8,000. So you think of the Adobes and the Salesforce of the world, there are now 7,998 other pieces of technology underneath them. So A, how can we as strategists actually keep abreast of that? But B, how can we push against the enormous tech brands to actually ask them to deliver us more? Maybe the 7,998 tech companies will put pressure on them to do so. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we need an AI system to figure out which of the 8,000 we should use.
Well, let's build it tomorrow.
Easy. Well, look, Lucy, it's been a genuine pleasure talking to you and reconnecting. It's been a long time. So thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and take care of yourself in the UK.
Will do.
So that's it for this episode of Everybody Hates Your Brand. We hope you enjoyed it. You can find show notes, resources, and more episodes on our website, everybodyhatesyourbrand.com. But before we go, let's leave on a positive note and let's share what we're loving right now. And actually, I think I'm going to go first this week.
You do that.
It's normally Rob.
There's been a lot of my voice in this podcast so far.
Yeah. Well, I think my thing that I'm loving this week is going to earn us that NSFW tag, that explicit tag on all of the podcast providers. And that is Pornhub has done an ad campaign. All for apparently they've come out with a line of sex toys. Pornhub toys, appropriately named.
For those of you who don't know what Pornhub is, would you like to explain?
Pornhub is the YouTube of pornography, I guess. I've heard. I don't know anything about it. I Googled it, and that's what Wikipedia told me.
Apparently so, yeah.
So anyway, yes, they have an ad that were basically, let's say household items are singing a song in which they implore their owner to please stop using them as sex toys. and instead visit Pornhub Toys and buy one of their many, what I assume are adequate sexual implements. But it tickled me. I thought it was funny. It's worth watching. I think it's well put together. That's the name
of my new band. Adequate Sexual Implements.
That's
amazing.
Well, there you go. That's what I thought was really. It caught my eye. And it tickled.
Do we have a safe for work link that I can put in the show notes? Is the question.
It's a good question. I'm gonna see. I couldn't find it anywhere. There is like a campaign page, but I believe they're selling sex toys on the campaign page. But I found it through Ad Age. So.
Oh, okay, fine.
I guess it depends on your work.
That's fair enough then.
If it's NSFW.
Yes. Mine is a fun little thing. So, which I suppose is another adequate sex instrument. But
what?
The new consoles come out soon. And obviously I have an interest in video games and also a background in video games, and the Xbox Series X comes out in the middle of November. Could I pre-order one? Could I bollocks? So I'm a bit annoyed. But anyway, if anyone's seen the Xbox Series X, it's kind of like a big sort of black rectangular monolith of
It looks
thing.
like from, what is 2001?
2001, yeah. And what they've done, somebody said, it looks like a fridge. Well, what they've actually done is built an Xbox Series X fridge.
Really?
6 foot tall.
What?
To sort of reassure us all that the Series X is in fact smaller than a fridge and isn't the same size as a fridge. So it's a 1-to-1 scale replica, measures more than 6 feet tall and weighs 400 pounds.
But it's a functioning fridge.
Yeah, it's heavy. It even has an Xbox logo on the front that lights up, and the Xbox Series X boot sound fires up when you use a disk drive slot to open the fridge door. The fridge glows green inside, so anybody who knows their brand colours and brand codes, Xbox is green. They value the fridge at $499, which is the same price as an Xbox Series X, but you won't be able to buy one. They're giving them away, and they're using it as a promotional tool. They gave one to Snoop Dogg last week as a promotional item to push it to the Xbox owner for years. And I just thought it was a really fun little tactic that they've come up with, and a play on kind of good self-deprecating little tactic, and they're using some interesting influencers. I think it's more than just Snoop Dogg who's got one, but it's an extraordinary looking thing, I have to say. It actually kind of looks quite good.
You know, I was thinking, I don't know if I would object necessarily to one in the kitchen. Like green on the inside, that's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool. It's a very monolithic looking thing, but it is kind of fun. And I just thought it's an interesting use of influencers. It's an interesting, just a little tactic and something fun that I think that they're trying to do. I think it's Xbox Series X they're both in interesting positions because stock levels are so low. Like all the pre-orders are sold out. Yeah. So you're now struggling. You know, whether they have any for launch day, I'm not sure. I hope so because I'd like one.
So, but they're just giving them away. They're not saying like,
you can't buy.
We know you wanted an Xbox, but would you like this fridge instead?
No. It doesn't play video games, sadly.
Well, if they gave me one with the fridge, I would buy the fridge. Then you get a fridge and an Xbox.
It's pretty cool. But I just thought it was a good, fun tactic.
That is fun. Well, you did it. You've wasted another perfectly good half an hour or so with Rob and Jen and the Everybody Hates Your Brand podcast.
And Lucy.
Again, you can find us on everybodyhatesyourbrand.com and your podcast platform of choice. Have a week.
Take great care. Be vigilant.